So, all right, well, see you on the other side. This is the other side. We are in the apocalypse. This is it. Doesn't look like what you think it is, but we're in it. And one of the major indicators was how much it rained on Tuesday. It rained like it never rained before. And it was torrential downpours. And then yesterday, because yesterday is Wednesday, Louisiana, Mississippi, other places got hit extremely hard by fast-moving hurricanes. I don't say hurricanes, tornadoes. Might as well be a hurricane. Because the wind speed was like 100 plus an hour, 123 that was clocked at one point. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And we're set to have tornadoes today between 2 and 8 over here in Ohio. So I can only imagine what kind of crap we got to deal with. But I'm prepared for it. It's whatever it is. And so blacking out my windows has helped, especially in my bedroom, because that's where I live the most, is my bedroom. And the bathroom, it has that picture window that is so refractive and so conductive that I just, instead of the towels, which was great, but it's not long term, I put a pillowcase, a purple pillowcase to diffuse some of the light. And so it's better. It's not optimal, but I got to figure out, something longer term, but that right now is okay. So yeah, I know, but still the climate is still accelerated. I mean, I had to poop a few times this morning already at 6:30. I had to poop a few times. But only had a few hives on the side of my thigh. That's about it. Nothing crazy. I think I had to blow my nose a lot. But we are in climate change. We are definitely in climate change. And oh gosh. Yeah. Watching a few of the YouTube videos, the sciences behind climate change, what it's doing to third world countries like India and the Middle East and areas that are already hot. And unless they can go into underground caves, they're on top of the surface, they're exposed. And so what did they say in that one video about the looming collapse? Is that the elderly will be first to go. The children will be second to go, unless the parents do something different. See, in the first world, you have a choice. But in a third world country, when you don't have access to resources, and it's not like you're going to go live in a tunnel underground because it's not set up for that. You're not a billionaire that can build a bunker with all the creature comforts. So in the third world, the children and the elderly don't have any choices. Well, neither do the middle-aged, because they're going to expire very quickly. But in the first world, you have a choice. So as long as you can survive what potentially could happen, fires, floods, hurricanes, tornadoes, aggressive, inclement weather, lightning, civil unrest. And so the first world has it much better than a third world country. And so blacking out my windows has helped a lot, though we're still in climate change. I luckily have a basement. But yeah, that Monday was a major ritual. And I was prepared for whatever was going to come to surface. I was prepared for it all. And again, I'm glad my husband did not go out on Monday, because he would have been stuck in who knows what. And yeah, he still has to deal with idiots out there on the road, but that's pretty much an everyday occurrence. So Yeah, yeah, I had to point out that we are in a Luciferian society. People say that Lucifer is the devil. Well, I guess he's the hot devil versus the cold devil. I mean, when we think of the devil and Satan, it's a cold day in hell, right? A hot day in hell, a cold day in hell. You're so cold, it's like you hear about the ghosts, that it turns cold in the bedroom if there's a bunch of ghosts. And when you're in hell and damnation, it's hot. That's Dante Alighieri. Okay. And the 9 circles of hell, that's all the 7 deadly sins in the Catholic Church, pointing out what happens when people have entities stuck inside them, causing them bad behaviors and whatever else. And so, I'm just going to go down my timeline because there's just so much. And so, yeah, it's 65 degrees in this house. Usually it's 65 degrees. It is cold to me. I would have the heater on, or I don't know what. But it's 65 degrees. And I even sweat occasionally. Not like hot flash. Like people are like, oh, you're menopausal, Jillian. No, it is a heat, like a different heat. So even though it says 56 or 55, 56 on the weather app, and my house says 65, I have meat to my bones. I have regulated my temperature upstairs where I live by reducing the ambient light that comes through the windows and anything else. And so I'm actually pretty comfortable. And if the electricity ever goes out, I'll just sleep in my basement. And it's very, very cool down there. Okay? And so those that don't have a basement, well, it's like living in Texas. You don't have a basement. Maybe you do, maybe you don't. I don't know. Some people live in Texas and they don't have a place to go that's cool. They're dependent on an air conditioner. Well, what would you do if you didn't have air conditioning? How would you cool yourself off? That's why in California, when the Santa Ana winds would blow, and it was a dry, hot wind that would blow over the Santa Ana, whatever, the San Fernando Valley, people start going a little cuckoo. And that's a known fact, that when the Santa Ana winds blow, the devil winds blow, people go a little cuckoo, a little crazy. Well, now, yes, it's not just in California. It's all over now with the climate change. If you even can admit there's climate change. And so it is 65 degrees in my house, and I feel so amazing. And so usually 65 degrees is freezing to me. Nope, it's very comfortable to sleep in, especially with the blacked out windows. Okay? And so the heat humidity will destroy people slowly if they do not find a cool, dark place area to rest in and recoup resources lost from priorities. Not gallivanting like you live in Disneyland, not in the middle of an apocalypse. We're still in the middle of the apocalypse, but it is a different apocalypse. It's not like you see in the movies. It might be in some areas. And I was expecting something like that on Monday. But from that, all that expecting the worst, which drove people a little crazy around me, but that's okay. I discovered a way to sort of stave off the ambient light that would cause even more energy conversion, especially in this environment, especially with the clouds. I mean, it was so cloudy yesterday, but it was so bright. Why was it so bright? Because those clouds reflect particles. So even though it's cloudy, and I see people over there in the UK shaking their fists at the clouds, I'm like, dude, you should be inside. Because those clouds are probably reflect more because you think it's safer. And they said that before. That even on a cloudy day in California, it actually is far more dangerous being in a cloud, hanging out in a cloudy area outside during clouds than it is when it's complete, utter sun. And so now you have to be careful of the clouds. Obviously, you have to be careful of the rain and the wind and all that, all the crazy weather. But also be very careful of the straight hot sun. People are like, oh, I'm a sun worshiper, I'm a sun gazer. Not in this. I mean, yeah, I guess you could turn into ash later on. Yeah, you're in hell right now. We are in literal hell right now. And so the heat humidity will destroy people slowly if they do not find a cool, dark area to rest in and recoup resources lost from priorities. Not gallivanting like you live in Disneyland, not in the middle of an apocalypse. I'm serious. We are still in the middle of the apocalypse, but slow and expeditious death relative to your lifestyle and belief system and state of biological existence. So again, if you're in the first world, you still have choices. Potentially. I mean, if you're living in a shelter or you're living with people that you can't control, that you don't have a say in anything that goes on around you, well, I'm sorry, that's your situation that you're going to have to figure out. But we are still in the middle of the apocalypse. And so I am very glad I prepared myself for everything on Monday, because at least now I know how to at least stave off aggressive heat and humidity. I can't control natural disasters like the tornadoes that could potentially come through. But at least I could survive them if they did happen. Now, there's no guarantee I could survive them. Who knows? Just depends on how they hit you directly and where you are. Well, I'll be cowering in the corner in my bathroom in the basement and just hope I survive it. That's all you can do. Do the best you can. And so I'm glad I prepared myself for everything on Monday, because at least now I know how to stave off aggressive heat and humidity. I can't control natural disasters, but at least I could survive them if they did happen. I'm in the first world. If you survive natural disasters, you could potentially be okay. You still need food and water and climate control. And the earth is still heating up regardless of where you think it came from. You must protect yourself from heat and humidity and aggressive temperatures. Some people will go out with the light. They intend to supernova. Okay? And you can't stop them, obviously. But they intend to supernova. And we have tornadoes to prepare for here in Ohio, in northeast and southeast Ohio. So I already have a go bag ready, whatever. But at least I'm admitting there's a problem, which means I will do everything I can to find a solution best for me. Now, my solution may not be your solution. I'm just giving you options that if you are dealing with aggressive stuff and you feel the heat and feel all this stuff and you wake up in the middle of the day when you're taking a nap and you're all hot and whatever, and you have your windows open, the curtains open and everything, maybe you should close the shades, get some blackout type of cloth, velvet or whatever, and black out your windows. Maybe it's time not to be worshiping the sun and being out there, because that's also the issue. Now, my husband, he's a day walker, right? But he's been built for that. I'm a night walker because I have different biological system. And even though we're relatively the same, he has conditioned himself for extreme temperatures because he was raised here. I was raised in California, moderate temperatures. So I have to be very careful what I do, or I will constantly be sick. Not that I couldn't survive it. I'd have to eat for my environment, but constantly eating and releasing so aggressively and being heavily sick all the time because of how aggressive it is out there and the heat and all that, and being around diverse company too. Well, that's a suffering that why should I have to suffer? I can suffer a little bit. Suffering, a little suffering is not bad, but extraordinary suffering, preventable suffering, well, then you bring it on yourself. And so I told my husband, well, I'll go out once a month with you on the fishing boat. Okay, I'll go out once a month with you. Anything more than that, man, it's aggressive out there. People are aging faster. Gen Z is aging faster. They're looking like the boomers and the Gen X's. You can't tell now who's Gen Z and who's millennial and who's Gen X and who's a boomer. They're all looking the fucking same. But they're not looking like a Gen Zer, like an actual Gen Z. They're looking like a boomer. That's why I get confused even with people in my own generation. I think they're like boomers. They're like, dude, I'm just as old as you are. And that's kind of like insulting on my end to them, but I've lost perspective on who's older, who's younger. I don't even know anymore. And so, what's sad is most people out there don't even see there's a problem. And if they do see there's a problem, they turn to politics or religion or some kind of solution in science as far as remedies and surgeries. And some people are trapped. Yeah, I understand that situation. If my husband had it his way, he would have his whole place opened up, so much light coming in, and I would be fizzling up into who knows where. But now I have to fight for my survival. Despite him going like, what? This is so weird. Yeah, it's weird. Believe me, I didn't ask for this. But the climate has changed. And he hasn't really had to change too much because he's so conditioned for extreme stuff. And he's okay with dying someday. And he's okay with aging out. And he can handle pooping every so often and the pain and suffering sometimes when microbes are on the move. But I have to fight for my survival. How many women and men out there that are trapped with their family and friends, told what to do, when to do it, and they don't have a choice in the matter to change? They can't. They're not allowed to. That's the suffering I completely can see and understand because, again, if situations were different, I probably would have died sooner if I hadn't fought for myself. I probably would have some kind of cancer or die from a heart attack or a stroke or who knows what, or be divorced. And so sometimes if you can, well, there's no sometimes, you either can fight for your survival or not. That's just what it comes down to. So you see how trapped some people are with their husbands, with their wives. And it sucks for them. And we've seen people in situations where the wife or the husband completely controls that person's situation to the point where even people notice it and even talks amongst themselves about it. And they're like, oh God, I don't stop my husband doing whatever he wants to do. He does whatever the hell he wants. Almost, up to a certain point. And he doesn't really stop me from doing what I need to do to protect myself. He might be like, that's just really weird, and maybe have a little huffiness about it, but that's just a person who isn't used to change and isn't used to someone different right in their face. And he's had to make a few allowances, and he gets over it, but he's not an easy person. I mean, obviously neither am I. But we eventually understand. And that's any marriage. You have to be able to understand your partner and allow them to survive, even if it means they have to change the way they do stuff. And so I'm not willing to die for anyone. Okay? And so, oh well, I am sad for many humans. Nothing I can do. By the way, all those clots, those strings of what seems like calamari out of people's veins, that's all the antigen antibody programming that grew so fast and clogged up people's arteries and capillaries. Okay? That's all it is that when you have blood types, no matter what, whether it's an O or A or B, the antigen antibody programming is like another entity. It gives you all the different memories and strengths and weaknesses and whatever else. And there's also spirituality with them too, that sometimes people have teratomas, they have fast-moving cancers, they have tumors, and sometimes the system has to cut it out. Sometimes the system has to unclog people's hearts, like angioplasty and quadruple, triple, and double bypass or whatever. Okay? And so that's what those clots are, is that it was catalyzed by the environment. You see, simply just being around people and taking on life isn't bad. But when you catalyze and influence life to replicate so aggressively, okay? And you're watching them replicate so aggressively. That's what makes some of these issues that people have around the therapies so exponential right now. The therapy, the people, the dogs, the animals, all the things are not bad in of itself in a vacuum. But when you add energy, when you do abracadabra and you add energy to any kind of life form, they start dancing and replicating and dividing and replicating and dividing and multiplying and multiplying and multiplying until people can't get ahead of it. That's what's going on. But when you don't even admit that there's climate change, you don't even admit that there's particle acceleration, you don't admit that there is that side of the world that people don't even take into account, then they're going to blame the air, food, and water and who knows what else. But the whole J world was an example of ionic energy activating people's immune systems. And so, yeah, if you were bigger, like the lady on Dr. Phil, she suffered what she thought was a heart attack or a stroke. And I wouldn't argue that that wasn't the case. I'm sure it was. But that was already set to happen. She just had to be luckily she survived that, right? Why did she survive that? Because she probably brought it on herself because of the salt and the J juice and the food and the air and the water. But if she would have encountered an aggressive energy like COVID or anything else, she probably would have died because she didn't have the conditioning. Salt may give people energy, but it's not so aggressive that people would die from it, or else they would have it as like a drug or a controlled substance. Salt isn't poison, it just gives people energy. But why people die from heart attacks and strokes is that over time, after so many times they've had heart attacks and strokes, and food mitigation, and other remedies, that they have weakened their body's conditioning to release and retain. And so when they do get around aggressive energy, regardless of where it came from, they don't have the conditioning and the reinforced blood vessels to handle the body's immunological response that should happen, but people resist that. And all the cures in the environment, especially in an accelerated environment such as this, is basically resistance. You're not wanting to be fluid with the environment. You're trying to resist the environment. So cures are actually resistance. Even though you're not actively out there punching air. But the fact that you can't even feel pain and suffering, and you're trying to assuage your pain and suffering with remedies and surgeries and food mitigation and not change the way you do stuff, is an act of resistance in of itself. And so resistance doesn't always look like people out there on the streets punching air. It's also someone taking their herbs, smoking their pot, doing their alcohol, all over their addictions, ignoring indicators. That's a type of resistance as well. And so people have constricted their intestines as well as constricted blood vessels. And then aggressive growth on top of that clogs up their blood vessels. Like so many people full of shit clogging up their intestines, which is why people don't eat, because they don't want to feel the growth and release. So then we have starving humans out there, like a snake eating their tail, cannibalizing themselves. And so not only do their blood vessels and intestines growing entities so fast, but people also die suddenly from that. Obviously. That's called heart attacks and strokes. Whatever clot they had wasn't, the vessels weren't stretchy enough to be able to push that calamari through their veins, and so they die from lack of oxygen. Because the particles have accelerated and you're in humidity and heat and even aggressive cold. And so those of you who are shaking your head at the sky saying there is no more sun because you see all the clouds, literally you should be afraid of both the clouds and the sun, because the sun is aggressive and the clouds are extremely aggressive. The clouds are full of hydrogen fuel cells. They are amplified energy, and so is the sun right now, because the mediators in between the sun and the earth are causing the amplification, causing the wavelengths to become shorter and shorter, not long and lazy like it was 30, 50, 60 years ago. You really need to be inside in climate control, in my opinion. You stop bitching at the cloudy skies. You should start bitching at the environment, but you can't change it. You can only change yourself and your behaviors. So I proved on Monday I can change my behavior, and I modify my personal environment to help myself. Now my husband, I gave him the downstairs. I mean, that's where he sleeps anyways, is on the couch, and occasionally we'll hang out together. But he sleeps better on the couch because the bed, he has an issue with the bed, and of course I'm snoring. I'm sure he snores and all that, and he sleeps great on the couch. So that's fine. So he has all that, and I did black out one of the well, but it's dark enough for him. But he can sleep in the light. He fell asleep with the light on many times. I'm like, I don't know how he sleeps with light on, but he is such a deep sleeper that even the light doesn't keep him up. But occasionally, I guess he'll wake up, he'll eat some breakfast, he'll eat like cereal like in the middle of the night. And then I see the light is off, like when I wake up, I'm like, oh, I thought the kitchen light was on. Because I would turn off the light in the main room downstairs because he'd fall asleep to it. But I'd leave the kitchen light on because I'm sure he wants a little bit of light, right? And I wake up and all the lights are off. So then I see his cereal bowl. He had cereal in the middle of the night. Okay, so yeah. So my husband has his area where he has all the light. I have the area where I have all the dark. And I still, and the thing is, I want to survive to make sure that I keep up my end of the bargain of being a wife. And he said thank you to me the other day. He said, thank you for taking care of me. Well, absolutely. That's what we do as a husband and wife. Even though I know I'm different and I'm realizing and seeing the writing on the wall for a lot of things, but, you know, I want to keep up my end of it. Make sure I cook and I clean a little bit, and I do the laundry, and I make sure I plan for the most horrific events, pay the bills and all that stuff. So every marriage has their division of labor. And so I will be no good with him if I can't cook him some good meals. I will be no good to him if I can't do the laundry. I will be no good to him if I can't be that sounding board for whatever he needs to sound off on. Okay, so that's why I do whatever I can to do, is not only for my survival, but to also keep my marriage alive and still justify my existence in my marriage and uphold my end of the contract without destroying myself. Okay? And I still find him extremely attractive. He is still an amazing person. No love is lost between us. We are definitely still on the same wavelength. Even though we are riding different wavelengths, we're still finding that happy medium. I just had to modify my way of doing stuff so that way I could still survive my relationship and survive the world and survive the apocalypse when you think about it. And he is a kind enough man. Some men are not kind enough to allow their wives to change. And yeah, that's some of the sacrifice some of these wives and husbands will have to make for their significant other. And that's their marriage. Okay. And so I was watching this YouTube video this morning early, the looming collapse. Yeah, it's humidity, heat, and hell, growth, and starvation for those who don't modify behaviors if possible. Yeah. I gotta blow my nose. And so that YouTube video, COVID concerns, and that was done on April 7th, 2024. They're finally going to acknowledge all the different calamari, the blood clots. They're going to finally acknowledge that maybe the V's, you know, were part of the factors along with the climate change, but they're not even mentioning climate change, but they're going to say the V's are going to say long COVID is this and all the different remedies they have and therapies for that. They're still not going to mention climate change causing the acceleration, but they're going to acknowledge people's concerns about it. But if you don't understand that climate change is what caused the long COVID, climate change is what caused all those calamari type growths in the veins, then people will still not change, and they will take the latest cures that the system will develop, because they have found some protocols and therapies that work for some people. But the root of the issue is that we're in climate change. And so then people's lives are going to be cut shorter, even though their lives might be a little bit better because they were able to be cured of their situation based upon the climate change and what was in their body. They're still in an accelerated environment. They're probably not even going to change the way, well, they might even lessen the food intake. And they're out there running. One of the segment showed a lady that got over the long COVID, and she was out there running out there, doing her marathons. I'm like, okay. So whatever. And so this other businessinsider.com said a 26-year-old influencer who people think look much older has a theory about why Gen Z appears to be aging faster. Well, this theory is that no different than even my generation. Okay, inflation, instability, having to make it before you're 30, whatever that means. All the pressures that every generation goes through when it comes to success and productivity. And of course, now they're graying earlier. Why are they graying earlier? Because the environment has aged them aggressively, because the environment is that much more aggressive. And so Jordan Howlett said he often gets mistaken for his mom's older brother when they're out in public together. And so I said, basically, they're blaming it on inflation and stress and working. Every generation has had to deal with inflation, stress, and having to work. But why is Generation Z getting gray earlier? Which is one of the signs of why they look older, because the atmosphere is that much more aggressive. And they're trying to keep up with their peers and prior generations. They have something to prove. And so they'll work themselves to death to prove to people they're just as good as everybody else. That's fine. You don't have to slow down. And I've seen people post on their Facebook like, oh, why should I take a break? I should just go head on and go as fast as I can and go as hard as I can because I'm proving that I am hardworking and I'm loyal and I'm this. And then you see all their little friends and family go like, oh, that's so great. Well said. Blah, blah, blah. And so people have normalized and even bullied people through love and kindness and support into working themselves to death. That's how detrimental friends and family and your Facebook audience is, that people will allow their audience to bully them into working to death. Not taking a break, not, taking care of themselves, but working themselves to death. And of course, taking remedies and things of the nature and even staying away from food, air, and water so they can keep working themselves to death. And then one day, mama who's like 30 years old dies at 35, leaves behind 3 kids, all because she had to prove something to her audience that she was a great worker and a productive person. That's Gen Z. That's even millennials. And so they have something to prove. And so they'll work themselves to death to prove to everyone that they're just as good as everybody else. That's fine. You don't have to slow down, but you will run your hamster wheel into the ground earlier, just so you can look like you're a productive person to your friends and family who really don't care what you do, so as long as you're not on their couch or in jail. Yeah, no one wants to take care of somebody who hasn't figured out and they're on your couch. Okay? Somebody doesn't want, if you're in jail, then that's another issue too. But either you get married off to someone, or you cut down your lifestyle and belief system and your expenses and have a little studio or rent a room somewhere. But, people don't really care what you do. So as long as it's respectable to you and you're doing okay and you're taking care of yourself. Okay? And who cares if you get welfare? Okay, great. I don't know how you get welfare without having kids. I don't even think that exists anymore. Welfare. But yeah. And so yes, I asked Google, is the earth warming up? Someone says that, oh, don't listen to Google because Google will only tell you their narrative and that's it. And I'm like, so they're making fun of Google, people who use Google, no different than when I was doing the whole Julie Juice world and I was Googling what a cell was and I was Googling what a neutron and a proton and an electron was. And people are like, oh, look, a Google scientist. That's the mainstreamers to me. Now the polls have flipped. Now we have conspiracy people telling other conspiracy people that you're a Google scientist. Oh my God, you're a Google scientist. It's interesting how the polls have flipped. And so I asked Google, is the earth warming up? And they're like, yes, the earth is experiencing climate change. Climate change is a long-term shift in temperatures and weather patterns. Since 1850, the Earth's temperature has risen about 2 degrees Fahrenheit, with the rate of warming increasing since 1982. Yeah, all the storms in 1982. There was was it El Nino, La Nina? I remember all the floods and all that stuff. The 10 warmest years on record have all occurred since 2014. Okay? So yeah, there was climate control even back in 1850. So anyone that says, oh gosh, don't be a Google scientist, you acting like a mainstreamer 10 years ago when I was Googling what a fucking cell was. Oh, you're a Google scientist. You can't have it both ways, conspiracy people. You either understand how to mix in both concepts that are based in academic science and then how you characterize those concepts. Don't throw away the baby with the bathwater. But that's what a lot of people do who are very biased and can't balance out both sides of the information, and they don't have discernment. No discernment. It's either all or nothing. And the mainstreamers and even the hardcore conspiracy people, it's all or nothing. And so while they have some information that's appreciative, some still teeter on that side of turning into a mainstreamer 10 years ago when we were all trying to research shit ourselves. Because we needed to develop another narrative, another characterization of pertinent information like terms and concepts that are indisputable unless science has to change, because science is never settled. That's the other side of it. Science is never settled, so that's the loophole that scientists get, and lawyers and politicians and religious people, use, is the fact that certain things are not settled. Oh, new discovery. We didn't know this. We didn't know that. Oh, experiments. And I get it. You got to have room to wiggle. And so, yes, I made an AI image of Lucifer and all the sun worshippers out there. And, of course, Lucifer and the sun worshippers. And so I said that, we are in a Luciferian society. Time to draw the curtains. Sun worshippers will burn up faster, especially if they're not eating for their lifestyle, to make up for the energy used while worshiping the sun. So, nope, not jealous of the beachgoers now. The water light is more amplified than ever, and even in the sky. When the sky looks like the ocean like we've seen, with all those clouds, that's amplified hydrogen fuel cells. Let's just call a spade a spade. Hydrogen fuel cells. They are fueled with not only rainwater, but also energy and whatever mixture from all the different nanoparticles because of geoengineering. Nothing is poisoned per se, but they're amplified. And so it's going to cause people to age faster, go through immunological responses more aggressively, and even some of the bacteria, the flesh-eating bacteria and other bacteria that are in the brackish water or in the ocean or wherever else are even more aggressive, that people are dying from the cold, the flu, some kind of flesh-eating disease, because everything is amplified. If you don't amplify your body to release the demons as fast as you take them on, then you clogging up your intestines and conditioning your body not to release as these microbes become more amplified and more aggressive. That's how people are dying from all these preventable diseases, because the microbes are amplified, but you're resisting the body from releasing. And so people are getting bigger, or more aged, and also dying from aggressive microbes that were slow moving and lackadaisical maybe 50 years ago, but now they're on the freaking move. So no, I'm not jealous of you beachgoers, sun worshippers, not in the fucking least. If you have an issue with this information, maybe it's time to balance out the light and the dark, because both can be deadly. It's not just the light, but right now our society is all about light, like moths to a flame. Sometimes it's okay to sit in the dark, but if you're going to be chasing light, you better have enough substance to handle the light. Too much light can be deadly. So I got a lot of laughs on that from people from other countries, and I don't know how they found me, but that's fine. So I said, in response to them, and I blocked them, evidently some people have an issue with this. I could delete that post, save myself from trolls, but I'm not a martyr. I'm not going to martyrize that post. I won't sacrifice this post to save myself, but I think this is really relevant. The atmosphere is not the same, people. Everything is amplified, which is why you're seeing turbo cancers and aggressive aging process and short-fused people. If you watch that video about looming collapse, when the brain swells and people are dealing with so much, it causes quick anger, okay? It causes people to be violent, to say violent things that they ordinarily would not say or do. But when you're triggered in an environment such as this, people will do what they really want to do because it's now at the surface. The demons are at the surface. That's why you be careful of strangers out there. You don't cross people's path, and you try not to get in people's faces at all. Short-fused people. The atmosphere influences growth and also a lot more energy used up. That's what hell is. It's global warming. It's extreme cold in areas that were not meant to. Hold on a second. Okay. It's extreme cold in areas that were not meant to be so cold. Have you ever heard of a cold day in hell? It will be a cold day in hell before My mother used to say that to me. It's a cold day in hell before I do this, this, and this. I'm like, okay. If you're going to play in the light, especially now, you must eat for the light so the light doesn't consume you. Right now, the world is changing. It's changing extremely fast. Don't be offended, but if you are, chances are you're chasing the light. Yes, I learned how to pull back. I am 50 years old. If you're 20 and 30, fine. But you're not in the same atmosphere I was in my 20s and 30s. And so if young people have to learn the hard way, you're not in the atmosphere I was when I was your age. But nobody can tell you that, okay? Young people can't be told a damn thing. Nobody could tell me anything at my age either, so I understand. When I was your age. Which is why the young people will age extremely faster than their elders. At some point, you won't know the difference between grandpa and grandma and grandchild. Because grandchild will look just as aged as grandma, and everyone starts looking elderly, even 30-year-olds, and even children. And that's how shit goes crazy. That's when you know shit's gone crazy. Yes, I'm 50. I've absolutely slowed down. Because I don't need to keep up with anyone. My life is not over, it's just changed. Some people think they have to keep spinning that wheel until they work themselves to death. Okay, fine, that's your prerogative. I'm just aware of the atmosphere I'm in, and I act accordingly. Nothing to prove to anyone. Right now, it is a race to the bottom, just so people can impress their friends and family. It's not a crime to point out and observe the behaviors of a society I live in. And I like allegory. Because it's extremely appropriate right now. I like Dante Alighieri. I even like Exodus. Right? You know, I posted about the whole firstborn. Right now I'm already seeing in Die Suddenly that kids are dying. At schools, in hospitals, just dying suddenly. That's basically the 10th plague. As this environment heats up and parents are not changing the way they do stuff, what choice do these kids have but die suddenly? Because parents are fucking oblivious. And so I like allegory because it's extremely appropriate right now. I like Dante Alighieri. He was a great poet. He understood the human condition. Lucifer is about bringing light to everything. People were in the dark for such a long time. Now you're getting so much truth. That's the truth or truther or truth or lies community, right? Because some people say, oh, your truth is a lie to me and my truth is a lie to you and whatever else. So that's the mainstreamers. Everyone's chasing the light. Everyone's chasing knowledge. Everyone is chasing pleasure and paradise. Now go look at your Facebook. Oh, look, I'm at a basketball game. Oh, look at me. Be jealous of me. I'm on the sidelines. I got the front row seats. Sometimes it's okay to sit in the dark and give your body a rest. Give your mind a rest. Give your spirit a rest. And you don't have to rest in peace. You can still enjoy the world from a different perspective. All right? And so, yeah, I posted a compilation, a hybrid picture of CERN and chemtrails, and even the eclipse with Native American rain dances. Because that's what Monday was. It was like a rain dance. It was a flash mob, a tornadic flash mob. Because even though we didn't experience the apocalypse like we thought, which is one of the scenarios we were entertaining, but obviously the whole retina, the ruptured retinas. Oh, my eyes are hurting. Yeah, 8 hours looking at the sky, I'm sure. But then yesterday, having those tornadoes come through like a house of fire. Holy crap. Yeah, that was a pre-show on Monday. That's what I'm talking about. Delayed reaction. Mainstreamers don't get that. So they mock people. Oh, we didn't have the apocalypse. Well, we didn't know what to expect, but we prepared for everything. And you're out there with all your friends wearing these little flimsy glasses you got from who knows what, CVS and drugstore and Amazon, staring at the sun like I'm sure they did 6,000 years ago. And then you have so many people have blindness, cytokine storms, immunological responses, cancer. Remember, the environment has changed, but even mainstreamers don't even fucking see that. Completely oblivious. So Native Americans rain dancing is to a solar eclipse and a mass ritual right before southern tornado devastation and so much rain. Monday's ritual is Wednesday's devastation. Monday was like a rain dance or a tornado flash mob. The goalposts never moved, because I see that in some of the people out there who are making fun of the doomsdayers. Like, oh, look, the goalpost moved again. They're now going to explain away why nothing happened. the goalposts never moved. They just weren't wide enough. Sometimes to make a goal, everything must be factored in. Sometimes you have to use all the plays in the playbook in one game. And so all of you that are making fun of all the doomsdayers, how's your eyes doing? Oh, wait, you have a sickness, but you're going to blame it on the V's or blame it on this, blame it on that. But you're not even going to blame it on the fact that you went out there for 3 hours, 2 hours, 8 hours and stared at the sun for such a long time. Wow. And, yeah, shootings. And what was it? The winds? Clocked at 123 miles an hour. That's some devastation. And so Californians and up and down the West Coast, your weather is changing too. So don't get too comfortable either. You had it very good for such a long time. Those days are over. It's just a matter of time. Remember, you're in earthquake country, fire country, flood country, and you have the fog, that amplified fog in San Francisco. That's hydrogen fuel cells in San Francisco. Fire country, flood country, even tornadoes and potentially hurricanes. So before you gloat and make fun of people over here, you better figure out a game plan for all situations possible, because you might have to use them. And this goes for all the first world nations. Don't get too comfortable. And so, yeah. All right, so Gulf Coast Updates, it's a site that obviously updates Gulf Coast news. And they were like, marked safe from believing the solar eclipse is anything other than the moon passing in front of the sun. So it was a jab, an indirect jab at those who were the doomsdayers, right? And I remember that on Monday, or even Tuesday, seeing these things come through. I'm like, okay, little shits. Okay, all right. You want to play this game of gloating and thinking that, okay, well, yeah, these are weather underground people. These are meteorologists. Maybe they're mainstreamers that took on the assignment of updating people on Facebook, social media. That's their job, as a social media updater on whatever. So fine. So I say, care to change your tune? That was yesterday. Obviously, you're not safe. That was just the pre-show on Monday. And the people looking at the sky were not safe as well. How quickly events can turn around. Stop making fun of people. And so then that also spurred me into action. To those who mock other people because they're trying to warn you, they've already seen the indicators. I don't care if you agree or disagree, but mocking somebody because they're trying to warn you because they give a shit about humans in general is fucking cold. And you're an asshole for doing that. A complete and utter a-hole. And I've dealt with a lot of a-holes in my lifetime. And I'm sure people thought I was an asshole. No doubt. Okay, so believe me, I'm sure I was an asshole to other people for so many different things. But you know how quick shit can turn around. And then you'll be the one ending up suffering from all the things that they were trying to warn you about. So don't be so quick in mocking people and gloating, especially if you're in the southern states. Texas. Somebody in Texas was gloating. That apocalypse didn't happen. How's Texas doing? How's Louisiana doing? How's Mississippi doing? How are you doing? How many times have you gone to take trips to the hospital for whatever reason? And then you stared at the sky for 8 hours. Well, I can't wait for the apocalypse. I can't wait for the eclipse. Really, I'm sure. You better make sure you're on the side of right and science. You better make sure you know all the arguments, because I can assure you most people out there who mock other people, who try to warn them, don't have any idea all the arguments available. Because they've closed themselves off to everything except for what they choose to believe. And that's dangerous. When you purposely blind yourself because it doesn't fit your narrative. I may have a narrative, but I also entertain every piece of information. And I make sure I don't tear down the house entertaining all of the information out there. Okay? I know what I can afford to lose. And I'm thankful for those who try to warn me. I see people mocking the weather updaters, saying like, oh wow, they're like, don't put fear porn, don't hype it up. Blah. I'm thankful for those who try to warn me and warn other people of inclement weather. I am thankful for the weather people, even the lay people who try to warn you and keep you guys abreast of inclement weather and everything else. Some of you have your head up your ass and are cold as hell, and you make people not want to help you. You make people feel sorry for you. And doomsday and apocalypse scenarios don't always look like what you expect. Again, everything has a delayed effect in this environment. I tried to warn you. So before you get on your high horse and laugh at people warning you, you better check yourself before you wreck yourself. This is all cliche right here. Because you might find yourself all by yourself. Not everybody can be there to save you. And if you're in Florida laughing at people, trying to warn people, remember, you're in hurricane season. I don't think you can afford to laugh and gloat at people trying to warn you. You're in the path of fucking hell. Do you not get it? I Googled what's hurricane season going to be like in 2024. And you know what they said? In the Atlantic, in the Caribbean, in the Gulf Coast, it's going to be active. That should be something to get you to be in action, to get the hell out of harm's way. But you know how people are. Deer in fucking headlights. Oh, let me go do a rain dance out here and go play with my friends and be all spiritual and all this shit. I'm going to go to a basketball game. What happened in the South today is a major indicator. If you can't see it, I'm sorry for you. But again, laughing at people trying to warn you is extremely cold. And it's an asshole maneuver. I'm in Northeast Ohio. And I'm not immune to anything. I understand what kind of danger I'm in as well. And I can't afford to laugh at anyone who's warning me. You see, I'm not an asshole. But I know many people and plenty of people who are assholes out there. And here's the thing. You can't stop what's happening. You can't stop what's already set in motion. But you can find ways to make the blow not as traumatizing and destructive. That's all you can do, is embrace the warnings and make the blows as soft as it can be. That's all warnings are for, lessening the catastrophe, sidestepping preventable situations if possible. If you are truly trapped, don't take it out on the messenger. Find a way to unscrew yourself. All right? And so, yeah. And so the state could be months away from having a possible 6 magnitude earthquake. That's in California. All right, there's warnings in Ohio. And I'm watching some of the police officers talk about what happened over there in Louisiana, Mississippi, and all that stuff. I lived in Mississippi for at least a year, a little less than a year. I can't believe it lasted that long. 9 months in Mississippi. I spent 9 months in Mississippi. I barely even remember it. It's like 20 years ago. And I was working at the casinos. And then fast forward to 2004, 2005, then there's Katrina. And if I would have gotten that job at Kelly Services, because I was working at the casinos and all that. But if I were to get that job at Kelly Services and got an apartment for like, what, $600 a month? That's in Mississippi. I would have been dealing with devastation. So I mean, Louisiana, Slidell, all New Orleans. Oh my God, I dodged a bullet there too. See, I lived a lot of different places. That's kind of how I know a lot of how people are in different areas, and you know, it's memories, it's experiences, it's even learning the history of the area. Yeah, you feel bad for people. And they're saying also, too, those who are near dams, stay away from dams. So if you live near the Hoover Dam, you live anywhere downstream of a dam, I don't know, man. I would take a look at everything that's around you. All right, so yes, light can damage the retina, especially when it's prolonged exposure to bright light, like from sun, lasers, or arc welders. Okay, people who weld. That's why they wear this protective mask. This damage is called solar retinopathy, photic retinopathy, or retinal phototoxicity. It can cause low vision and permanent retinal damage. So I can only imagine what was going on when I got my DMV, recertification or license renewal. And it was bright outside, and who knows, and I'm having issues with my eyes that day, and I can barely see anything, which makes sense why this environment is causing people's vision to change even more so during the solar eclipse. which is why my eyes were so affected during the DMV license renewal. I didn't even think about how harsh the sun was or how much light was illuminating through my window. And of course, how climate change has affected amplified particle acceleration and light. And so while, yes, the optometrists and ophthalmologists say that people's eyes change, well, why do they change? Oh, because the amount of light they're getting from their lifestyle. It's deterioration of the retina. And so those that actually looked at the freaking eclipse for hours and hours on end, geez, what did you just do? What did you just do to yourself? But you can't tell them anything, right? And so, women and men, make sure you know where the gas lines are in case you need to turn the gas off due to a gas leak. So I saw a post that says that some parts of like Erie, they had a gas leak, and to turn the gas off if you smell gas. And I have, a carbon monoxide detector and a fire detector, smoke detector. And I know what gas smells like. It has a sweet smell. And so I asked my husband, well, where is the gas line? So I was showing him through Facebook. Okay, show me where it is. And I know where it is. It's like a hole with a lever that when it's down and it's the hole is matched with the other hole, and then you can lock that to shut off the gas if you wanted to. But you have to wrench that down. So I figured out where the gas line is. I know where some of the water lines are. I mean, these are the things that I've never had a house before. My husband's had a house before, but I've never owned a house before. So learning things of where things are when you don't take for granted that someone's going to be there to turn the gas lines off, to turn the water off, to fix your plumbing. I mean, my God, owning a house is a lot of responsibility, and you have to know what you're doing. And so when someone isn't there to do the things that you're not, then you're dependent upon somebody else to do it. So that's the thing with women and men. Make sure you know where the gas lines are in case you need to turn the gas off due to a gas leak. Because I know some women, some women don't even know half the stuff because their husband did it for them. Their husband made sure that this is done, this is done, this is done. And so we take our husbands for granted. Not all of us. But then you realize when shit hits the fan and you can't always depend upon your husband or even your neighbors or anyone, you don't want to depend upon people. You have to be relatively self-sufficient. And you got to know how to do things to protect yourself. And so morning equals, so MOURNING/MORNING equals dawn of amplified sunlight water vapor, morning cell death, MOU or MOR, cell death. Okay? And so wind and rain and water are energy carriers, and the sun is that energy, converting the energy in the wind, rain, and water carriers for specific purposes. Hydrogen fuel cells, yet again. If people don't change their lifestyle, they will be energized out of existence and, of course, suffer diagnosable conditions. You must eat and rest for your environment, even your lifestyle, if you're even aware of the danger that you're in. How water and water vapor is amplified. How clouds are amplified. Hydrogen fuel cells, cloud seeding amplifies storms and cytokine storms. The amplified sun rays amplify everything. As the world works towards a lower carbon future, alternative energies like solar and wind power are expected to be key contributors. What doesn't make any headlines is the universe's most abundant element, hydrogen. See, H2O is water. So hydrogen is like a gas, and you have two atoms. Is it two hydrogen atoms plus oxygen? So you have oxygen plus hydrogen. That's water. It's H2O. So you can only imagine the water is being used as a weapon and a reflective particle. So the energy sources can be produced in large quantities and used as scale. The International Agency, IEA, projects hydrogen, a low carbon intensity fuel, to make up about 10% of the future energy mix in 2050 for heavy industry and long distance transport. Remember hydrogen bombs as well? Okay. Demand for hydrogen could reach 225 million tons per year by 2050. The IEA reports demand in 2019 was less than 100 million tons per year. We're taking a deep dive into this increasingly important element to explore how it's produced and its role in our lower carbon future. Lower carbon intensity hydrogen demand. And so hydrogen is a fuel source. Hydrogen is typically bonded to other elements in compounds such as methane, water, and biomass. After separating hydrogen atoms from these compounds, hydrogen can be used to store and transport energy. Like electricity, hydrogen is an energy carrier that must be produced from another substance. Given the properties of current battery technologies, creating electric power is challenging in industries such as aviation, marine, heavy-duty long-haul freight. And yes, there's harnessing powers of hydrogen. And someone posted some stuff about that, videos about that. Okay? Anthony Haywood. He posted a few videos about how they're using hydrogen. And so, it doesn't matter what you believe or disbelieve. It doesn't matter if you think it's all in someone's head, as far as the apocalypse, as far as whatever's going on. Okay? Everything's about intention and outcome and specific measurable result. And if you don't know what you're measuring, you'll believe allegory. And it doesn't matter what kind of allegory, because you won't use science to back up the allegory. You'll use allegory to back up whatever science you think is happening. Science is the egg. The allegory is the chicken. How that egg was developed is what gives you the type of chickens out there. The egg always came first. The egg always came first. And so I said, I feel so normal right now. That was yesterday in a blacked out office. That was around 10 o'clock a.m. yesterday. That usually I feel heart palpitations because the sun would shine so harshly in my office. While the barometric pressure rising and falling so aggressively influences immune system activation and blood pressure, the constant harsh rays of the amplified sun contributes to even more aggressive immune system activation. So before, I could sit in my office with the sun coming through and write 40 papers. Yeah, 40 pages. Even downstairs when I had my dog around and we had the blinds open and the door open and the sun was coming in and so was the air. Now I'm just like, holy shit, I ain't doing that. I'm blacking out stuff. People's dogs are being affected. People are being affected. And so that is climate change, accounting for how the system uses the sun to dim or light up people's worlds, all relative. And the system uses so many different mediums to activate all types of ULF or ultra-low frequencies to manipulate the energy in the environment. The system uses metal nanoparticles to activate or salt particles to reflect whatever direction they want the sun to reflect. Either way, from Earth or towards Earth, science. Okay? I get people laughing at stuff. Well, see you later. I don't know who you are. Whatever your name is. Kenneth Ambrosio. Bye. But it wasn't. So yeah, people who looked at the sun, stared at the sun for such a long time, now they're gonna laugh at anyone that says, "Hey, maybe that wasn't a good idea." Because how are they going to justify their behaviors? So they're gonna laugh at anyone that says, "Well, you made a mistake." Now they're going to be like, "Oh, I didn't make any mistakes. You're stupid." That's what happens when people when they do shit that they can't fix. That maybe they shouldn't have done what they did, but whatever. And so the system uses so many different mediums to activate all types of ULF or ultra-low frequencies to manipulate the energy in the environment. The system uses metal nanoparticles to activate or salt particles to reflect whatever direction they want the sun to reflect, either away from the Earth or towards Earth. That's called science. So when you have California getting salt particles injected into the clouds to then reflect the sun back out into the universe, away from Earth. Can you imagine some areas will get salt particles that will then reflect the sun towards Earth and make it hotter? That's science. And so Lisa was saying the barometric pressure has so much effect on me. I get headaches whenever the weather changes, but I never see anything like it does to my dog. She's 3 years old, and whenever a storm is coming up, her tail goes down. She paces and pants. This goes on sometimes 24 to 48 hours before a storm. I even call her the barometric beagle. She started this 8 months out of the blue. Yeah, my dog was feeling it also too. So silent weapons for quiet wars equals ULF, infrasound, amplified water vapors, using light as a weapon of mass destruction. Your unchanged lifestyle is weaponized against you. So yeah, I'm not jealous of anyone living in Florida. Believe me, I'm not jealous of anyone that lives on the water. I'm not jealous of anyone that goes skiing right now. I'm not jealous of anyone that goes out there and sun gazes, because right now in this environment, all of that's going to destroy you. And so at this point, the winners will be losers and the losers will be winners, because times, they are changing. Bob Dylan told us this back in the 1960s. That's where it all started. When you think about it, when we finally see what they were actually doing. In the 1930s, it was all like, ooh, reefer madness and the jazz age and all the sexuality and the movies and all that stuff. But it was the 1960s. It was the kickoff and all the different experiments. And here we are. All right, bye.